When did we know that we were called to this nation? I feel like our journey in missions and the calling and direction that God's been leading us has taken place over a process of time.
When I was 16, I saw some promotion for a YOM trip to Trinidad and Tobago. And for some reason it had never crossed my mind before, but I saw that and thought, why wouldn't I do that? And so I went on a missions trip when I was 16 and met my now husband at that trip. And many years later, then I went on a different missions trip, and I didn't necessarily feel called to missions, but there was just a seed that was planted, a tugging that started forming to do something different and to go.
And the church in Spain has been leading, has been a leading factor of the revival here in Europe. And so when we saw what was happening here after we had talked to the Herods, our supervising missionaries, we felt very much that God wanted us to be a part of it and that we want to be a part of it. And if we could come alongside and somehow help plant daughter works, somehow further the revival that's happening here and be a part of what God's doing here in Europe, we wanted to do that. We felt that was the direction that God was leading us in. I would say one of the greatest difficulties in sacrificing and raising resources and funds to come do what we were doing here on the missions program here in Spain. The greatest sacrifice, I remember having a conversation with my pastor's wife back in Bourbon, Sister Cottrell, when we first started raising funds, and it was a struggle for me. You know, I was raised, and I think it's a good way to be raised, I was raised that you provide for yourself, you have a good work ethic, and you know, you do what you can with your own strength to provide for your family. And I remember when God called us to do this, there was things that we had to, there were mountains that we had to climb, there were funds that we had to raise, and I knew in the time limit that we had, I could not do that with my own ability and the time frame that we had. And I did not enjoy asking people for money. And you know, I think everyone knows that's a little bit of a missionary's job. It's a very real aspect of what we do. We have to be funded to do the work that we do here. And we're so grateful for the partners that we have. But I remember in the beginning stages of that process, mentally I struggled with it. I didn't feel mentally prepared to do that. I had never done that before per se. I could probably raise money for other people better than I could raise money for myself. And I remember talking to my pastor's wife about that, and she says, well, Jared, she says, that's your pride. And I said, yes, I think you're right. That's probably what that is. That's probably my pride. And so I think perhaps when somebody makes the decision to live by faith and to be fully obedient and to step in the calling that God gives them beyond their own talents, beyond their own abilities, the greatest thing that they have to sacrifice is their pride. That this isn't something I can do on my own, that I have to trust God that He's going to provide for me to do what He's commanded me to do.
I would do it again. I was once told by a very wise woman in my life that you can be happy in a shack following the will of God, or you can be miserable in a mansion when you don't follow the will of God. And so knowing that we're where we're supposed to be, I would absolutely do it again with no regrets. It hasn't been comfortable, it hasn't always been easy, but He has provided every step of the way, whether it's emotional, mental, physical, financial. He's provided every step, and we're happy to be in His will.